So a lot of you guys have spoken to me about what settings I use for the Panasonic S1H. How do I go about it? How do I obtain such a clean image? And thank you first of all for that. Sometimes I don't think my images look the best, but I do want to go ahead and break down in today's video how I go about ISO, anything when it comes to the Panasonic to get the best overall image. Now, I don't know about the best, but that's how it works for me. I've been shooting with the Panasonic S1H for over a year and a half now, and honestly, it's a camera that I really enjoy. For now, I definitely want to just cover up how I go about getting the best overall image quality with the Panasonic S1H. So stick around and hopefully I can help you guys. So let's just jump straight to it. All right, so let's get started. First of all, the one tip I can tell you guys to get the best overall image that I can tell you is shoot in Vlog. The reason why I say to shoot in Vlog, and only shoot in Vlog if you're shooting in broad daylight, not at nighttime, only daylight. I came across it, I made many mistakes where I thought I gotta shoot everything Vlog, but trust me on this, shoot in Vlog in daylight just because you get the best look possible from dynamic range. And the image somehow when you shoot in Vlog, I've noticed with the S1H, even the Panasonic S1 or the GH5, they don't have that digital look that a lot of mirrorless cameras have. They just have overall just a soft, very pleasing look. So I mean, that's just for me coming from shooting with the S1H for over a year and a half, the Panasonic S1 and GH5. I've noticed that the best image comes in Vlog, hands down. There is the times where I have to get out of that profile for nighttime just because it's not recommended, and I'll talk about it later on in this video. But to get a great image in broad daylight, make sure you shoot in log. The next step, as I'm talking about log, make sure you shoot at its native ISO from 640, and the next native ISO on the S1H is 4000 ISO. Now, the one tip to get the cleanest image that I can tell you guys from experience, from everything that I shoot, if you're shooting at 640 native ISO, the highest you guys can go to obtain still a clean image in that type of ISO is 640 up to 1000. You get no grain and it looks really good. Now, if you guys do have to bump up the ISO because let's just say that, you know, it's nighttime and you don't have a fast lens, jump up to native ISO 4000 and then mess with the aperture or boost the ISO if you have to. Now, when shooting in log, I noticed the highest you guys can go with ISO is once you're at native 4000, go up to 6400. Anything above that, you will get really grainy image. It's not gonna look the best. You are gonna have to denoise the image. But if you would just want a clean image, and like I said, you guys are in low light, so 4000 ISO works. But if you guys need that extra ISO, jump up to 6400, and that is the most. After that, get ready to denoise, and the image will start to fall apart. So just keep that in mind. Just keep it at native 640 if you can, if not to 4000. If you guys gotta go up a bit, you guys can, and the image will still look really good. But once you pass those levels that I told you guys when it comes to ISO, you will start to see it fall apart. So don't be 640 and all of a sudden you're gonna go to 1600. That's gonna look very bad. Either 640 to 1000 or 4000 to 6400 when shooting a log. So just remember that. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about when it comes to the Panasonic S1H is exposure. How to get the best exposure based on all the videos that I've shot. And I come to see the sweet spot is over 2 stops. Reason for that is the way I view it is it has such great dynamic range in this camera when you're shooting in log. So when you go 2 stops over, so much data in the video, and you can always, you know, drop the highlights, shadows. You have so much control over the image. And it's better to overexpose and bring everything down from shadows, contrast, whatever you want to do, highlights. You basically eliminate the grain if there's any grain. Compared to underexposing, having to bring it up, you're gonna bring out some grain. So always make sure you go over 2 stops if possible. And this is only recommended when you're shooting in log. If you're shooting in any other picture profile, just keep in mind you might not be able to bring everything back like it is when you're shooting in log. All right, so now the next thing we're gonna talk about is low light. And I know I made a video about 8 months ago, a year ago on the S1H low light test, and I talked about how I shoot everything in log regardless of daytime or nighttime. That is a terrible idea. To get the cleanest image with the S1H in low light, do not shoot in log. Again, if you have controlled environment, lighting and all that, then you can. But if you're out there running and gunning, the best way to get crystal clear image with very little grain, and you can boost that ISO up to like 10,000 ISO, 12,800, is shoot like in natural. The profile that I shoot in low light when I'm out and about just running and gunning, I shoot in natural because I can push the ISO super high and I don't have to worry too much about grain. If there's very little grain, I could just denoise it. But shooting in log at nighttime, if you go at least 8,000 ISO, you're already ruining the image. Denoiser is gonna help, but at the same time, the image is gonna look too soft and it's not gonna look to the quality that the S1H can deliver. So just make sure you guys shoot in natural or any profile that will allow you to just get, you know, very little grain when you're going high on the ISO if you need to go that high. Now, the next thing that I also came to realize that I hear a lot of people tell me is to get the best image, you have to shoot in full frame with the S1H. I got that from a lot of people. A lot of people will talk bad about me, like, why are you shooting in Super 35 with the 18-35 Sigma lens? You know, you gotta maximize this camera. The full frame looks the best, and realistically, you can't tell a dime a lick when it comes to full frame or Super 35 with the S1H. So what I can tell you guys, to get a clean image, you don't need to shoot in full frame. You can do Super 35 if you guys have a crop sensor lens like the Sigma 18-35 lens and you want to utilize that lens, definitely do it. That's one key that I recommend for you guys. You do not have to shoot in full frame. You can definitely do it with a Super 35 sensor if you need to. And that's pretty much it. The last thing that I can do to wrap this video up is master the camera. Just because for some reason you can't get the image to look like mine or someone that does it even 10 times better than me when it comes to the Panasonic S1H, you have to master the camera. Because you can't get that image doesn't mean it's time for you to switch to a different camera. Like, I've seen a lot of people just switch different cameras every single month or not month, but you guys get the point. Every 6 months, every year, and the camera is not gonna switch. No matter what you do, your quality, your image is not gonna switch unless you know how to utilize the camera. So if you guys have any camera, it doesn't have to be the S1H, it could be any camera you guys are shooting with right now, master it. Just because you guys can't get that certain image like others can, you can get there. It just takes a lot of practice. It takes practice when it comes to color grading, knowing how you're shooting the shot, knowing how to light, what lenses. There's so much that goes into a camera. You can't just expect the camera to give you the whole image. It takes a lot of work. So that is the last thing I can tell you guys. Master the camera. Don't just go out there switching cameras like other filmmakers are doing. Just stick to one. The Panasonic S1H, it is a great camera and it competes with any camera out there, from the Komodo, any expensive camera out there. The S1H definitely puts up a fight with any one of those cameras. So yeah, just remember, next time, you know, anyone tells you otherwise, like, trust me, I'm telling you guys from experience. I've had this camera for over a year and a half, and based on all the images, this is what I came to know with the S1H, how to get the image, and this is how I go about getting my images. Now, color grading and all that, like I mentioned, that's its own thing, but if you practice, you can master the camera and how to utilize colors and how to maximize overall everything, dynamic range, I mean, you name the whole thing. But anyways, hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, drop it a like. If you guys have any other questions in regards to this video or the Panasonic S1H, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll be happy to respond, and hopefully I can help you guys, and hopefully this video did help you guys. I feel like there's not many videos out there explaining how high you guys can go on ISO with the S1H, or, you know, all these little things that I mentioned from low light, and I just feel like these are little key things that can help you guys get the best image out of the S1H. Now, if you guys have found other ways to go about getting the best image, feel free to leave it in the comments below. You know, let other S1H users know about it. This is just how I go about shooting it. That's how I achieve my images. And yeah, hopefully this video can help you guys. So again, subscribe if you guys are new here. Like this video, give it a thumbs up. Always appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out, guys.